you're a camera technician, all right, and you work at a news station in the UK, let's just say for this example, and you're in charge of basically, moving the camera for the news and things like this, but it's a weekday. Let's just say it's a Wednesday or a Thursday, and you finish your shift at about 10 p.m. in the evening, right? And so you come in at around lunchtime to start your shift, and then your superior, your boss or whoever, comes up to you and says, listen, at around 7 p.m., give or take, you're going to go for a smoke, you're going to go for a bite to eat, you're going to go take a break for about an hour, and then you're going to come back. And when you come back, you're not going to ask any questions. And you say to yourself, my God, this is great. I mean, I could take a break on top of the additional breaks I have on my shift. I mean, I'm not going to ask questions. Who's going to bother, right? Okay. The time comes, it's around 7 p.m., your boss kind of gives you a quick look and a nod, and then you walk away. All right, you come back in about an hour, next thing you know, every single person in that studio is dead quiet. All right, there is some type of transmission coming through, but all you can hear is a bunch of muffling, a bunch of that kind of thing. And then your superior comes up to you and says, you got to listen to this. Right? And so you hear it, but what you hear is a voice coming through that sounds like it's a British voice, native to your respective country. And then all of a sudden, the voice starts to say, we will be coming soon, and then it ends. All right. Now, before I get into that, I just want to say that we do have a Patreon. It does help support the show. It truly is what keeps the show alive. But at the same time, it also has a lot of things that we cannot discuss publicly that we really delve into here. So we're just going to be giving prime examples of some of the things that we'll be jumping into as well. But let's get into it. So first off, Project Mousetrap, the walk-in transmission clones that keep spreading the C.U.R.E. Now, C.U.R.E. stands for Controlling Upended Relays of ET Contact. And the reason this is the case is because for those who say, well, Dave, why hasn't there been disclosure yet? Well, one of the things I like to say, and this is partly thanks to my friend Rumors of Instinct, is that if you look, there's already been disclosure to quite a large extent, folks. And this transmission is one of those cases. Now, when I said that this TV camera worker was ordered to leave and then come back, this was not because this person's superior or boss or employer knew this transmission was going to come through. This was simply because they thought they were told through their superior to allow for the camera technicians to leave the room at the time and just for an audio transmission to come through. But these executives at the studio did not recall this. Nothing whatsoever. It was as if they were telepathically brainwashed. They thought they all had been told by their superior, the owner rather of the news station, to just let it go. And then all of a sudden they realized later on when they spoke to their boss didn't tell them to do that either. So what we're seeing here, folks, is a lot of different things happening at once. Now, first off, we need to take a look at the front end of Project Mousetrap, okay? Because if we look on the front end, it's actually Operation Mousetrap according to Europol, and I quote, several law enforcement and judicial authorities and Europol's EC3 carried out a joint action led by France against EU citizens who were suspected of using remote access Trojans or rats to commit cyber crimes. 15 individuals arrested, end quote. Now, I want you to keep that number 15 in mind because it's going to tie into a lot of different things here. So let's take a look here at this website right here, trickedbythelight.com. Cymatics, matters pertaining to waves. Our world is made of energy and waves, light waves, sound waves, etc. When you look at the nature of waveforms, especially sine waves, they're very serpentine. When we leave the infinite void to take form, it is due to movement, vibration, and wave patterns. Worms, for example, react to movement and vibration, especially sound vibration. We have met the enemy and it is us, end quote. The reason why I bring this up, folks, is because when we understand the way in which a worm responds to the frequential vibrations or the heartbeat of the planet, if you will, because again, the planet is a living and breathing entity in many different ways we can argue, what we have to understand is that there's something going on with regards to human cloning that interferes with with C.U.R.E. from the sub-project of Operation Mousetrap on the front end. And what I mean by that is this. There are a lot of cases where the system is set up deliberately in terms of a political system, not just in the West, but around the world, to work in a way that seems presentable on the front end, but in reality on the back end, it is that of an established shadow government that has already been in there. Now, you might be saying, okay, Dave, what evidence do you have of this? Well, first off, let's take a look here at this document from the CIA, COINTELPRO, Techniques for Dilution, Misdirection, and Control of an Internet Forum. Now, this might sound a little bit ridiculous, but just bear with me, folks. When you take a look at the fact that a lot of these techniques of trying to persuade people within internet forums is actually taken very, very seriously. by the CIA, what you're going to find is that these techniques here, folks, they're not anything new. These techniques have just been readapted to apply the principalistic abilities to that of an internet-based forum, or I guess we could say website. But the first apparatus, or the way in which this operation first started, was actually with Project Mousetrap in 1977, by the way. So, on November 26, 1977, the Independent Television News, or the ITN station, had their audio signal hijacked in the UK by someone. It was just audio, by the way, by someone of the name of Vrillon, who claimed to be a member of the Ashtar Command. And he said, and I'll put the link in the description for those that want to hear the audio below, and I quote, "There are more beings on and in your world than your leaders and scientists admit." Okay, now what's very interesting about this is that, end quote, a lot of people say, well, how come, I hear a British voice coming through? It's probably somebody playing a prank. Well, folks, first off, let's break this down. Number one, nobody knew of the Ashtar Command in the 70s, at least on a public level, and not in the way that you and I know right now, right? Let's make that very clear. Number two, what we also have to understand is that a lot of these extraterrestrials utilize cloaking devices, not just in a physical apparatus or in a physical way to that of a holographic component that reflects the projection of the isotopes that our eyes are viewing, but at the same time, it also uses cloaking for things like voice and things like sensory ranges to emit themselves into that of a more diluted format of perception towards us. You see what I'm saying here? Now, the reason why I bring up cloning, okay, is because if we take a look here, and I like to thank my friend Genius for this right here. If we take a look at page 8, cloning attempts in the United Kingdom and United States. Now, this is a document from Congress, which was classified about 20 years ago, that is now in the Black Vault report as a declassified document. Very hard to find, though. CRS report for Congress on human cloning, updated July 20th, 2006. Folks, I read through the entire document yesterday evening. It basically says that cloning is happening at a secretive level without admitting it in a deliberate form, all right? But at the same time, this document also provides indication of evidence to a particular set of coordinates, if you take a look, which also align with the 33 and 66 degrees latitude and longitude that we looked at about a week ago. Now, what's very interesting is the coordinates align with this particular photograph right here, folks. You see this right here, and if we take a look at it on Google Earth, I don't know if this was deliberate or not, but it seems like it was an accidental mistake, similar to how there are bases in the middle of government property territory where it's labeled on Google Earth as a bicycle shop. So you're telling me there's a bicycle shop on government property where people are not allowed to even go, unless you're a government employee, right? Now take a look here. This is the quote-unquote slip-up I'm referring to, the TR-3B hangars. Now, TR-3B has allegedly been known to be that of humanity's best version of reverse engineering a UFO craft, but what's also very interesting is that this also connects directly to a lot of the human cloning centers of a picture I'm putting up right now from allegedly Phil Schneider. Now, this is inside of a secret U.S. government underground installation, and for those on Patreon, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. We've looked at a lot more than just this, but take a look at these pods. They're growing hybrids that are half alien, half human, and this has to do with an episode from 2 days ago as well, too, that I also want to make very clear is very significant to what we discussed earlier, and also brings back the possibility and ideology and concept of allowing for these different hybrids to walk in, basically, harness a walk-in cloning apparatus system and utilize these frequential energies to be suppressed. So something like the ITN interruption does not happen again. Now, what's also interesting as well, too, is I want to take a look at this website right here. This is Morphing UFO, and this is from UFOinsidehotspot.blogspot.com. Morphing UFO caught making crop circles. What they saw was a blue UFO that swirled above the field. Next, the UFO moved, changed into different shapes and patterns, before it finally disappeared. Take a look at this craft, folks. What we're seeing here is that the crop circles that are ridiculed by humanity so much are, as a matter of fact, emitting frequencies that keep the suppression on that of frequential interference, meaning that it's a lot more harder for extraterrestrials to try to communicate through television or radio waves in the ways that they used to. And this is what I meant at the beginning of the episode when I said, if you take a look, disclosures is already there. And it's true, folks. To a very large extent, disclosure has come at this point to a very, very vast and significant, I guess we could say, apparent revelation. Now, the next thing I also want to take a look at too is that when we notice that these clones are sent out to prevent subsequent frequencies from actually allowing more communications to come through, because believe it or not, the Galactic Federation, the Ashtar Command, you name it, every single one of them has tried to communicate through small individualistic groups just like yourself and myself, which is why the CIA also had to update their document on the CIA operation on how to infiltrate internet forums. Because again, if internet forums were not a big issue, why the hell does the CIA have a whole blueprint on how to spread disinformation and deceive individuals while manipulating others in a different way? Now, when we take a look at these crop circles, some of these crop circles emit the same frequencies, by the way, that the Wardenclyffe Tower emitted. Now, for those who don't know, it was a tower built just over 100 years ago by Nikola Tesla and his team, basically allowing for free energy to be emitted, and for many different things as well, too. It's believed that the Montauk Project picked this up, and you name it, right? But what I want to point out, very interestingly enough, is that if we take a look at FHFN.org, by the way, Family Health Freedom Network, human meat found in this McDonald's meat factory, all right? And this is the interesting thing that I want to point out too. This type of meat found in this factory seems to be that in which is emitting the same frequency that a lot of young babies who were then aborted are emitting as well too. So if we take a look here, federal government caught buying fresh flesh of aborted babies who could have survived as, I guess we could say, preborns or you name it, according to the Federalist.com. Now, I can't get into this too much publicly. We will be delving into it much more on Patreon, but I feel that it is absolutely necessary to bring this up because there's a 600-page report proving the U.S. government has been buying and trafficking fresh aborted baby body parts. These body parts purchased by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to humanize mice. Notice Project Mousetrap. Keep that in mind. Also notice something as well too. They're trying to funnel through some of these aborted babies into the deep underground military bases, to merge them with the hybrids that use, I guess we could say, direct energy weapon walk-in abilities to enter these bodies, as we discussed a couple days ago, to also allow for these frequencies of these crop circles to be suppressed so there's no frequential communication. And on top of that too, if we take a look at the Google Maps TR3B hangar coordinates that allegedly are accidental, those coordinates align directly and are perpendicular with that of an alleged deep underwater base, so a USO, unidentified submerged object. You see what I'm saying here? Now, what we also have to understand too is that these frequencies allow for the Ashtar Command to be suppressed, but also allow for, again, walk-ins when certain entities, interdimensional beings from higher dimensions, are trying to enter bodies, but they cannot. So we're looking at a multi-purpose operation here. Deep underground military bases, basically admitting to cloning and many other different things. Now, the final thing I want to point out here too is that if we take a look at the TR3B, right, which is again allegedly the reverse-engineered human UFO version that doesn't exactly have the same energy propulsion as other alien craft, but it can stand up to par in certain areas, but not all. Take a look at this right here. This also had to do with the location where the Food and Drug Administration set up a temporary camp, folks, to pick up some of these aborted baby parts. Now, look at this right here. Does that not look like Google Images is trying to cover up a massive TR3B in the same location, by the way, where the FDA allegedly was also trying to obtain and send off different children, aborted fetuses, into different areas of the government that then gets funneled off, and the next thing you know, it goes into the Pentagon. It somehow falls into the Pentagon's budget, 22 trillion goes missing, and then nobody knows a thing. You see what I'm saying here, folks? So I want all of you to let me know what you think. I know you might be saying, okay, Dave, how does an interference from something like the Ashtar Command from a TV station in 1977 help with any of this? Well, the idea, folks, is that that frequency has been suppressed so that that cannot happen again, even on an individualistic level. And this is the tension that certain human factions have with the Ashtar Command. They do not like the fact that there is a form of exposure and disclosure trying to, I guess we could say, preeminently present itself to that of the front end of what's going on here. So I want to thank all of you for watching, and we'll catch you guys a little later. Cheers.